Sometimes I look at the Torah's prohibitions, don't do this, don't do that, as the nations of old did, and I think to myself, how strange. What were they thinking being involved in all of these strange activities? In our portion this week, not to be involved with diviners, illusionists, soothsayers, tarot reading. Were they really so busy with all of these people? Such nonsense. And I look at our society today and we see ourselves as being advanced and progressive. We're so normal. And it's great to consider that the Torah's prohibitions are timeless because we actually also essentially deal with the same struggles. Our nature has the same tendencies that they had then, except that it's manifest in a different way for us. Human nature is to want to control or at least determine for ourselves our future. We endeavor to get into a certain school so that we can get into a certain high school and that our kids can then get to a certain college and then a certain degree and a certain career so that we can have a certain home. All of those are steps that we're trying to set up for ourselves for our future. And even on a simple level, we read the news and we look at the weather, always trying to grab hold of what the future has in store. And kind of some sense of control, because it's hard to feel like we are without any control over what goes on. And the Torah advises, Tamim tihiyeh im Hashem Elokecha. You should be sincere and simple with God. Instead of trying to be so sophisticated about navigating the future, focus on the present, do what you need to do, and the future, the results are in God's hands. And what God provides for us, we should accept with sincerity and simplicity. But it's not so simple, mind the pun, because whenever we look around and we see things that are going in the wrong direction, we see events around us that make us upset, we see people doing not good things, we want to do something to bring some control, bring some change. How do we let go when it's truly out of our hands? The media captures our attention non-stop because they're always talking about what went on and what we could expect for the future, and we're very wrapped up in that, with the politicians and politics and what's going to be, and it can be very dramatic and engaging. But ultimately, it's hard to accept, but ultimately many of those big decisions are being made out of our own hands. They're not asking us ultimately before those decisions are being made. We have a small part to play, but we need to really let go. So what do we do with this natural tendency that God gave us to try to control and try to direct things? And I think that the answer to that is in another mitzvah of this week's portion, where the Torah speaks of a king that's caring for his people, his country, both materially and spiritually guiding them. And we know that nowadays there are much fewer kings and monarchies. So why is the Torah referencing that? How is that relevant for me? In Hasidic teachings, it's explained how a person is, so to speak, the king of their environment. You have a city and many resources at your hands. Your heart, your mind, your capabilities, your hands, your energy, all of those are resources, just like any city has resources and buildings to work with. We also have our capabilities, and we have the people that make the decisions on how those resources should be used, which is really us. And so we can be the rulers and the kings of our own 4 cubits, as it's referenced, our own proximity. And we've got to go ahead and take that energy where we want to make change. We want to make a change in the world. We want to try to control how our future will be. And we've got to use that energy to do what we can in the present, to think correctly, to speak correctly, to act correctly. And God says that doing that will induce a divine measure of assistance. And not only will it affect our proximity, but it will affect actually a global change for the better as well. Wishing you a good Shabbos. May we have good news to share in the future, and may we always have the wisdom to accept what we cannot change and focus on what we can.